The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests as individuals, and do not necessarily reflect those of advertisers or sponsors. This show is intended as entertainment and commentary only. The producers strive for verisimilitude, but nothing said on this podcast should be taken as fact by the listener or viewer without performing due diligence. While generally considered safe for work by way of content, some language may be considered offensive by more sensitive viewers or listeners.
Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at.
This is Keep Your Hat On, a show by three nerdy nobodies and one nerdy kind of somebody about nothing in particular. Keep Your Hat On is brought to you by the Narrowband Broadcast Network, NBBN. The focus is on you, by Andrew Scott Media, making your media matter, and by the kind support of KYHO fans everywhere via Patreon. Patreon, create on your own terms. Coming up on this episode, the boys roll in as fall starts falling. Well, truth is, they're rocking up with no real theme to start. But we do get to see and hear Andy's new mic, Ty's Forest Weather Report, Chris's views on influences, and Dr. Mark's discovery of the origin of the word nerd. And don't forget, kids, etymology is just an N away from bugs.
That was a little weird.
Anyways, I'm your announcer, Richard Cranium. Now, let's get whatever the hell this is started. Here's the hats. Andy, Ty, Dr. Mark, and Paris Hilton's Defender at Large,
Whatever.
Chris.
3, 2. And hello, and I nearly introduced the wrong podcast. You guys were almost on booth to booth. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Welcome back to Keep Your Hat On, the show we don't even know where we are right now because we're doing this at a slightly different time. I'm Andrew Scott, of course, along with my good friends, Ty Robert Anthony, Christopher Vicano, and Dr. Mark Peterson.
I thought we were on booth to booth, Andy.
Right? I know.
Going on?
You guys haven't rated that show yet. We were just sitting here talking all about microphones. No, you guys don't rate. Don't worry about it.
Something I know nothing at all about, so that's what I asked. You know.
And I'm sitting behind a stupid expensive microphone that I got effectively for nothing. So this is an official flex. I am totally okay. Part of the reason why I'm using this, though, is because it's the one that's connected. But, I think I'll start off by saying on my behalf, this show is dedicated to my late brother, David Montgomery, who passed away back in September unexpectedly. Dave, my brother, was always somebody who really supported me in wanting to do professional voiceover and was really excited that I started getting traction and listened to us every once in a while, but kind of had problems with some of our liberal bent. I miss my brother and I love my brother, and I'll see you on the other side, boss. Okay. Other than that, everything here is hinky. How's everything with you all?
Oh, we got cold this week. We got cold today.
Oh, did you get a snap?
It's like 50 degrees outside.
Finally.
Yeah, that was 80 degrees the other day. But hey, global weirding is what's happening, and there you are.
Yeah. And you know what? I think
awesome.
I'm running off with that term, global weirding, because I don't even know what the fuck is going on anymore. New York is underwater. The fires in France and Spain, and it's just. We've broken this place so bad.
The word apocalypse is already
chaos
taken,
at this point,
right? Yeah, it is chaos. You're right, Chris. It is just so awkward. Ty, what did you were out last weekend doing the mushroom thing?
Oh, you were out there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be out there tomorrow as well.
Yeah, what was going on weather-wise there? And to be descriptive for our audience, you're not super far out into the weeds when you go mushroom hunting. You're still in the Willamette Valley.
No,
Where are you going?
No, I'm going to the Tillamook Forest. I'm going deep
Oh,
into
that's
a
right.
Tillamook
Okay.
Forest that the last time that it burned was in 1939.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Our,
almost took out the whole
stop
bit.
it. What are you doing, Mark? My God, we don't have the capital for another fire. Jesus.
Just having, don't you need to vacuum the woods? Wasn't that the
Mark,
thing that,
Mark, if that, yeah.
Yeah. Raking
that-
up the forest.
That forest should go back up. It will run into Washington County and
Yeah.
possibly into Portland. It will
Yeah,
be that
our Washington
right
County.
there.
Washington County is right next door to us we're in Multnomah County. But yeah, you're right, Ty. If that ever really does wind up. But yeah, you're right, Ty. If that ever really does wind up
and
being
it's
a conflagration, it is, yeah.
It's a complete tinderbox. The cool thing is it burnt over in 1939. And so the chanterelles generally like that environment of a past burn.
Yeah.
So, but last week, we were just starting to see the buttons come out. The floor was moist, but we weren't getting any precipitation that day or that week, actually.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice. We had a few days of rain the week before.
Yeah, the week before was when we had that 3 days worth of off and on rain, but that
was enough to just kind of dampen the force and keep the you want that 70, 60 degree and humid
because down in the 50s is too cold, they won't fruit. Over 75
once they get going, they'll fruit.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about but you came out pretty much with nothing, and you know what that means? I don't have any mushrooms.
Well, I think given that they were just starting to pop out, and provided that it didn't get too hot up there, but generally you take the temperature down here and anywhere from 10 to 12 degrees subtract, and as long as we stayed in the 70s up there, I think we're going to have good luck this.
I didn't realize there was mushroom math. I did.
Right.
Yeah.
Andy, if you're really desperate for a mushroom fix, I got a couple of big portobello caps in my fridge that I'd be glad to run over to.
That's okay. One of the other fun things that I'm dealing with right now is I've been told that I am on the edge of prediabetes, and I'm Mr. Blood Glucose Monitor now, and have gone back into low carb living. Dropped about 45 pounds since the beginning of the year. But for me that quite often is a good dump. But having lost, no problem. Hey, that's what this show is about, right?
I know.
Having dropped over 140 pounds at one point in my life, dropping 40 is not that big a deal.
Listeners.
Well, exactly right. All of Indy is gone now.
Yeah. Just on the dump comment alone.
We're going back. Heather and I are going back pretty heavy into low carb, and so
it's also good for you though too, right? I mean, it's like your cooking fixations. This should be just fun and games for you, right? You've done this before.
That's interesting that you kind of bring that angle up, because one of the things that I'm bringing back into my life from my Zen practice is not having fun with cooking, is to just once again turn food into sustenance and practice gratitude towards it, not a celebration of because I put myself in this place. I topped out at the beginning of the year at about 288 pounds again, which is about a whole Andes extra that should not be riding around on my meat cycle. And really one of the best times that I ever had with food was when Ty and I were studying actively with our two teachers, Hogan and Chosen Bays, both Roshis, and we're eating in a style that's referred to in Zen practice as Oryuki, which stands for just enough. We get 3 bowls and a set of chopsticks and a little spoon and a spatula. in our meal kits. And it's a lovely way to eat. The person on your left serves you, and then they hand you the food, and you serve the person on your right. And then there's a whole ritualized hand motion thing that goes along with it. But really what it does is it just encourages you to eat right up until the point where you think you're going to be sated, and then fucking stop eating. And that's my problem. I'm a compulsive overeater.
It comes to that, otherwise known as, when you're hungry, stop eating.
Yeah, which is, to be fair, kind of revolutionary in our
in this culture. It's a no-no, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned it, Andy, because I've been, I haven't been as heavy as you revisiting that. I have recently, in the past weeks, started being more mindful. Am I full? Then I need to stop.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need to eat that whole pulled pork sandwich. Half of it fills me up. Let's save the other half for later.
Yeah, and that's the exact same thing that Heather and I are doing. I mean, the good news about going back to ketogenic eating is ribeyes are on the menu again, and there are very few people on earth that make a ribeye as good as I do. By the way, remind me to share my ribeye making trick with you guys. It will change your life and blow your mind and make people fall in love with you.
We're here right now, Andrew.
Dry your steaks out. When I was cooking at Skelly's truck stop in Slinger, I was taught by a guy named Bruce. Bruce used to run his own steakhouse, which at the time, I believe, Mark, this will matter to you, was kind of quietly owned by the Balistreri family. Right. Okay. So we'll just leave that alone, and let's just
mention the word family there.
Yeah, exactly. La Cosa Nostra.
Say no more.
Very nice people, by the way. I'm just going to say. Go ahead.
You have to say
the steak thing that we do. But anyways, Bruce had to sell his place, I think, in a hurry. But this is back in the day, and he was just like, let me teach you how to cook a steak the way they do in a steakhouse. And the thing that most people make a terrible mistake about, pun intended, is they get that steak and they immediately put it on heat. Couple things. Number one, people mistake juiciness. Juiciness is not red. Juiciness is clear liquid. And clear liquid means melted fat. You want to get the water out of your steak. You want to get the blood out of your steak. The best thing to do, and number one, if you're cooking a steak that's less than an inch, fucking shame on you. Why are you eating that trash? Everything should be an inch to an inch and a half thick. The thicker, the better. Take it out of your fridge. The morning of the night you're going to eat a steak. Put it between 3 or 4 paper towels. Let it come to room temperature. The E. coli is not going to come get you. It's not chicken. And let that liquid leach out of that steak. Then putting a room temperature steak on a screaming hot cast iron skillet. No pepper, ever. Pepper burns. You can salt it. That's all. Salt, you got to get salt to like 1800 degrees before it melts. So salt is fine. But then 90 seconds on one side, flip it over, 90 seconds on the other side. Don't do the moving around thing. Leave it alone. Have your oven up to 500 degrees. And then the other thing, and I still don't understand this. Every kitchen should have at least 2 thermometers. They should have an instant read thermometer, and they should have a probe thermometer. You take that probe thermometer, you put it into the center of the steak, you put that steak in the oven, and you pull it out when it is 130 degrees internal temperature.
Sounds right, yeah.
Then the last cardinal sin that people do is they pull that steak out and they cut it right away. It is just going to finish. It's going to bleed out. That should sit there for 10 minutes, unmolested. And the The other big
said
tip
probe thermometer and molasses,
right,
all the same
right,
thing.
because it's still cooking, right?
Yeah. It's still finishing off. The perfect medium rare temperature is 135 degrees. You pull it at 130, it's going to go up to 135, 136 degrees on its own, just finishing off. It will be perfect.
Toast. Yep.
The last great cardinal sin is now taking that steak and putting it on a cold plate. Think about walking into an ice cold pool. What happens? Yeah, everything.
Shrinkage.
Yeah, exactly. Just toss your plates in the microwave for 45 seconds, and then when everything is nice and warm, plate stuff up. But the interesting thing about that is I could polish off a tomahawk ribeye on my own. That's 3 pounds of meat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Heather and I are getting to the point now where one ribeye, we share it, and our thing is we're trying to do 3 times the amount of vegetables as we do protein.
Oh, it sounds good.
That's it.
Stuck at 3 pounds of meat.
It still sounds delightful. I mean, don't give me
left.
What was the problem again?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Where's the issue? But trying to get, because like I woke up this morning with 120 blood sugar after a full night's sleep. Well, not a full night's sleep because I've been waking up early because my blood sugar's high. And I'm just trying to get a handle on this. I got to go up to my doctor next in December because he wants to check my A1C, and that takes 3 months. That's what A1C is.
Should take the edge off all that, doesn't it?
Well, that's kind of.
You have insulin resistances inbound now. That's what the problem.
I think that's really what's going on. And my big bad thing is snacking in bed. That's kind of like my mental and emotional reward. Mm-hmm. And we've gone a little hard into the paint on that the last couple nights, even when it's been knock it off. Even when it's been like keto treats, like nuts and Swiss cheese and stuff like that. Eating and having your body while it's digesting as you're falling asleep is just terrible for you. So we're just trying to figure out a path forward.
Yeah, I mean, big part of it is it fucks up your sleep.
Well,
I mean, because your body's trying to process and burn energy at a time when your body should be down-tuned and sleeping, recovering.
I don't know. I think maybe I just need to eat an entire turkey every night so I get the tryptophan bonus.
Tryptophan, yeah.
Tell you what, this is going to be absolutely aimless. We're going to be back in just a second on the other side of this break. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen? I'm Andy. That's Chris. That's Mark. That's Ty. Wear the hats. We will be back. Don't go anywhere except for maybe the fridge there. Okay. All right. Bye. And we're back. Gosh, that felt like no time at all.
Almost.
I think this is just turning into middle-age whinging, this episode, which I think
speak for yourself,
okay.
John.
Right. Well, from our last episode, having said goodbye to Jimmy Buffett and having my brother pass, Jimmy Buffett's last admonition on Twitter before he passed was, "This growing old ain't for sissies," and God knows he's right.
That's right.
But, one of the things we were talking about pre-show was this idea of we all consider ourselves to one flavor or another nerds. Nerds of a feather, as we would say.
I prefer geek.
Well, that's interesting because there are differences in those two models of living, I guess. And I always understood the word geek comes from the old carnival term for, in our generation, it was Zippy the Pinhead, right?
I miss Zippy.
Right?
Wow, God, that's a great memory.
Yeah, that's a long walk down memory lane, that one is. But, Mark, you said you discovered where the word nerd comes from.
So, my own inner nerd is that I will look up the words when I don't know where they're from.
Hey, man, philosophy, philology, they're not that far apart,
just
right?
an L. It's like bugs and word origins.
Exactly.
So there's an argument that words shape our reality. I mean,
well, we'll get there. Anyways, Mark.
Sure. Nerd. Oh, this is priceless. So, okay, I'm just going to read the etymological dictionary here.
Go.
U.S. student slang, probably an alteration of the 1940s nerd, as in nerds, for a crazy person.
Oh, really?
Which was an alteration of nuts, somebody who's nuts, and then of course, he's nerds. But wait,
Yeah.
This is priceless. The word turns up in 1950 in Dr. Seuss's "If I Ran the Zoo."
Oh, holy shit cake.
Wow.
Really?
Isn't that satisfying on a level you just didn't anticipate?
Wow. One more thing we are all desperately grateful for Theodore Geisel for.
Oh, let's just do that real quick. Favorite Dr. Seuss book, Andy?
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh, mine is definitely Cat in the Hat. I'm sorry, I'm a complete and utter classicist that way.
Wow. Chris?
I mean, I also have it in Latin, so.
Wow, crazy. Chris?
Wow, you caught me off guard with that question. Can you come back to me?
You really need
order
to
the fries.
take a minute.
I do. I need to think about that.
Ty, do you have one?
I haven't given much thought to Dr. Seuss in a long time.
Ham, baby.
Oh, green eggs and ham. Yeah, and that's interesting because that's probably close to what we're having for dinner tonight.
That's my favorite too.
Would be Horton.
Horton, here's the Who. Yeah.
Number one is green eggs and ham, and I remember Jesse Jackson on Saturday Night Live.
If I can, we're getting it right now. Yeah.
I actually, according to the Latter-day Saint Seuss, you do not like green eggs and ham? I do not like them. Sam, I am.
Yeah, I actually wept when he did that. It was like because
so good.
It was Reverend Jackson reading, I will not eat them with a fox.
Didn't somebody, as part of a filibuster, read that into the congressional record?
Very likely.
I'll put money on that. If not, hopefully we'll get that opportunity in this Congress.
Oh, and by the way, Starbellied Sneetches is my number 2.
That's more of a deep cut. I respect.
Oh, yeah.
That is a deep cut. Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. Have you got it?
For me, it's the Lorax.
I speak for the trees.
Right?
Yeah.
Good lad.
And I actually think they did a pretty nice job on that Lorax movie that came out. Now it's got to be about 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. No, I thought they treated it very well.
And what was it? Was it Ed Asner that was doing the voice? I think
it would be perfect. I don't remember that.
Right?
Yeah, I think it was. I think you're right.
But this whole idea of nerddom and
Danny DeVito.
Danny, that was it. Thank you very much. And he was flawless. And it wasn't a stretch.
No.
Get it? Stretch. Tight. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Chris. I needed backup for that.
Wow.
Don't be hanging your head in shame, Ty. Come on. That was tossed up to me to hit out of here. But there's something gratifying about being, and I mean, I'm preaching to the choir and selling past the close here to you guys. There's something really gratifying about being a lifelong learner. And I think that's something that is missing from culture now and missing from the zeitgeist, this idea of, and here, the other side has gotten a hold of it. Do your research, man.
Sea lioning. I know that word.
Which is totally meaningless. I mean, what that translates to is go read the same bullshit I'm reading, or go watch the same bullshit videos I'm watching, and
do
then
your
you'll
research,
get it.
And then they'll send you a bunch of links to some spurious bullshit with high production value. And that's
it's
something
amazing how much of that there is around, by the way, because it's like when stuff happens out there in the political sphere, my Instagram feeds suddenly get filled with unbelievably well-produced, like soccer moms who, like, to my mind, clearly not really a soccer mom, but soccer moms complaining about earnestly about whatever. It's amazing how fast that stuff hits the market.
Well, This is part of the phenomena of, if you're talking about Instagram, I mean, I think what you're brushing up against is this phenomena that I've only recently learned about, which is momfluencers.
Yeah.
Oh, how many fluencers can there fit on a head of a pin?
Well, yeah, and
there you go.
I mean, that's a whole can of worms.
You know, I'm really mindful of that, though, in one of my other hats that I wear, you know, I guess I'm an influencer. Am I an influencer? I'm an educator for voiceover production on YouTube. And
Well,
you know, the thing to me that is I'm really both mindful and nervous of is this phenomena that if you want to really generate interest on something like YouTube, and I guess I'll have to say YouTube because it's the only video sharing platform that matters, frankly. You know, there's a certain look. I started out my YouTube channel shooting on my phone in a box wrapped with mattress toppers. Is this thing on? Are you on? You're on. Okay. And, you know, in order to keep growing, and I often reference this in my videos, I had to spend a ridiculous amount of money to look like some kid playing Minecraft in his mom's basement.
Right.
And but the thing is that actually matters.
It does.
And in this world that we live in now that I'm hyper aware of, you know, metrics and analytics and like learning on our videos, on the KYHO videos. When do people dial out? What are the parts where they fast forward and watch again or listen to? This whole thing of a hack intellect buys the right equipment and there is an baked credibility that comes with the right look, and that's dangerous as fuck. And I mean, the greatest example of that is Alex Jones. I mean, that absolute nut job had enough money to set himself up in a high quality visual environment
to make it look like a news set,
to make it look like he knew what he was talking about. That level of I don't, it's not credential. That's just it.
It's packaging.
It is absolutely packaging. But just so long as you look slick, people will dial in.
Okay, so Andy, you started this off expressing some reservation that maybe you're drifting into the influencer area, and here's why I would say you are exactly not an influencer.
Good, save me, Chris, please.
Because you have done the work. You actually and you teach. You are working from a place of substantive knowledge. Influencers are ultimately postmodern. There is no there.
Yeah. It is literally sound and vision for the sake of
empty
sound
shell.
and vision.
They are packaging with nothing in it.
So this is the old complaint about celebrity, right? Which are people who are famous for being famous.
Being famous.
The Kardashians,
yes, exactly.
right?
And that's what an influencer is. I mean, it's based on the whole influencer concept really arose from Paris Hilton.
Yeah, who interestingly enough has stepped away from that whole realm quite effectively. And to be fair, Paris Hilton is a goddamn solid DJ.
Is she really?
She is very good on the decks.
There's
has
a lot
been
to
for
her
a long
credit.
time.
I mean, she's an incredibly savvy businesswoman.
Oh yeah.
You know, she's not a dipshit by any stretch.
No, and I think she started playing that on TV until it didn't serve her commercial purposes anymore.
Exactly.
Always interests me, right? So these people that are really, really intelligent and play really, really ditzy, or a man that was a shyster who played a very, very business savvy,
a great businessman.
There is no example of that people can reference.
I
mean, people like that would get convicted of fraud, you know, eventually.
You'd think,
yeah,
right?
Well, I was going to say, there's not a sample of that where that bubble has been just massively popped.
No,
I mean,
no, not at all. Anyways, carry on, Ty.
What was I going to say? We were talking about geeks and nerds.
Yeah,
geeks and nerds.
Well, and I think there's a nexus point here because I think a lot of what those influencers try to tap into is the rabbit hole phenomenon. Is somebody getting an inkling that there's something more to know and then blindly trusting YouTube and Google to feed them effective educational material that winds up at times being some Karen in, you know, in front of a green screen, looking good and sounding good, but not having anything in their sandwich.
I might have shared this with you guys. This just triggered this memory. Did I tell you about my mentor in the craft, Bob Perkins? I remember him posting, copying, and passing along a meme on Facebook. This is like 15 years ago, and it was that thing where go out and look at Mars tonight because it's going to be as close as the moon.
Right.
Do you remember this thing? Did I tell you what Bob said about this?
No.
Okay, so he posts this thing up, and he said, "Boy, this is really something and unexpected." And I wrote him back, and it was like, I said, "Bob, you know that this is just bullshit, right?" And I love Perkins' reaction. So this was like 15 years ago when he was 80 something, right?
Right.
One of the great Kierkegaard scholars of the 20th century.
I know, I've read
in perspective, right?
In the right direction.
So anyway, but I said, Bob, this is just, bullshit. And Bob he goes, well, why would somebody do something that stupid? And it was like, God bless your heart, brother. You do not understand the internet.
No, exactly. And, I don't fault somebody so rooted in Kierkegaardian thought.
Well, or just reality, I guess. They
were too trusting at the wrong time.
Well,
why would you deliver
down this road when people thought Born in the USA was around?
Was a patriotic song.
Well, we're still there, aren't we?
Yeah, aren't we though? And to me, it's really interesting that it's almost like, well, and here, I think one of the best examples that we have of this misinformation phenomena and rabbit holing is our former greatest quarterback in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
Or Aaron Wrongers, I have been starting to refer to him now.
Didn't he used to be quarterback in Green Bay?
Something like that. Who knows? He's
Didn't he used to play pro football is the real question you should ask.
There's the rim shot for you.
And not too soon, by the way. Not a minute too soon.
No.
I should say not 4 minutes too soon.
Sincere apologies to the New York Jets.
Yeah.
The poor Jets. They even had an HBO special about him.
They did, exactly. And then
the tears of infinite sorrow. Look.
So the thing about Rodgers that really baffles me, I mean, if you look at his collegiate experience, I mean, he was fucking from Cal. Cal is notable for not simply passing athletes out the door. They actually make you earn your fucking degree. And for somebody that has that level of education, to have essentially, and I'm gonna lay this at the foot of Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan is really one of the best examples of a mildly smart guy going down the wrong hole. Pardon me. But this thing where,
not that we're judging.
I am so fucking judging.
And boy, is he going down the wrong hole to all of America.
Well, the thing that I knew that Aaron Rodgers jumped the shark when he lost Danica Patrick as a girlfriend.
What is wrong with you?
How do you do that?
Well,
what are you thinking?
Not just Danica Patrick, but
Olivia Munn, wasn't she?
Olivia Munn. I mean, dude.
There's smarter than he was. Maybe that was the threat, right?
There's something really wrong with you.
That is exactly where I was going with that. I got a feeling that what we're seeing is some incredibly smart women going,
nah.
You believe what?
Wow, this guy is not what he appears.
No. And on my non-Zen side, on my shamanistic traditions and animism side, for somebody like Aaron Rodgers to use his Western white privilege to go and take ayahuasca,
and it didn't work.
No, what kind of ego do you have that it stood up to ayahuasca? Seriously, that makes me go, you are on a different level, son.
Man, I wondered about that. It's like he came back and he goes back on Rogan and it's like, You know, the other indication, by the way, let me just get this little piece of Wisconsin anger and triggered animosity out of my system.
Cheers to that.
This sucker, if he had, so did he need another $100 million? I guess he did, because he had like $100 million in the last few years. Okay.
Yeah.
If he had retired from football, and Chris and Ty, I don't know how to even describe what that means here, but just, blow it up big. If he had retired as a Packer, we still venerate Reggie White, right? And he didn't.
Exactly.
He just spent his. But it was because. So if he had quit as a Packer, had gone out as a Packer, and made some comment about how great it was to have been a Green Bay Packer, and he can't go someplace else after that experience, they would have put a fucking statue up to him next to
my God,
Bart
yeah,
Starr.
He would have been revered as a god.
Right.
He he literally could have walked out into the street on Lombardy Avenue and shot somebody, and it'd have been okay. Sorry,
everybody would have gone. Can we
careful about that language? But
yeah,
but no, he had to go to the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done now. Thank you.
No, and you're right.
I want to point to something here, though, and that's that. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is about Andy's and Ty's and my age. Maybe just a tick younger.
No,
he's 38, guys. He's 38.
Younger. Yeah,
he's 38.
Chris, we're old.
Okay, he's quite a bit.
Yeah, the 40s go fast.
Good point. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. He wouldn't be playing football in his 50s. The point I'm about to make still stands. As a little kid, he, I'm sure was watching football. Was watching pro football, and he saw exactly the same thing we did as kids. Joe Montana, the quarterback god of the NFL,
arguably,
who,
at the time,
just like you described, if he had retired at San Francisco, and the entire country wanted him to retire at San Francisco, because that's where the Joe Montana story was. But no, he decided to squeeze a little more out and go to the Kansas City Chiefs. Who
I like Kansas shitty, though. I think that was a nice slip of the tongue.
Well, it's always been there. Having grown up in Denver. And at the time, they were roughly equivalent to what the Jets are today. I mean, they were a backwater nothing team. And he burned his entire legacy to the ground,
and
in exactly the same way. So in a sense, this is what quarterbacks do. I mean,
it was interesting that he apprenticed under Brett Favre, who also did this crazy shenanigans.
Exactly, and also involved the Jets as well. You got to remember, Favre went to the Jets before he went to the Vikings, I believe. I think I'm right about that.
At least Rodgers didn't go to the Vikings. That we would have had to just.
I don't think it was the Jets. I think it was the Eagles.
No, Favre went to the Jets.
Did he? Was it? No, it wasn't. It wasn't New Orleans, was it? It wasn't.
No.
Somebody.
Okay. We're on the internet. Somebody look that up.
Somebody look it up.
But the thing for me was, we've got this. We've got a quarterback problem. We've got these guys who, and for all the good that Rodgers did in Green Bay, we're starting to hear. Oh yeah, but we're starting to hear that his manners in his way of doing things in the clubhouse with other players, he was very top down. He took that idea of I'm the leader to its extreme extent.
It didn't start off that way either, because that was the problem with Brett Favre. And the beautiful thing about watching Rodgers play for us up here was that really for like the last 6-7 years, Favre just went out and just did what he felt like.
Yeah.
And when Rodgers got out there, it was like there was a whole team on the field.
Right.
And then, but now the last 4 years, Rodgers started pushing the ball. Anyway.
Yeah, and for me, and it's interesting too, because we've also seen this, of course, with Tom Brady. Now, I'm one of these people who, when you're looking at, speaking of going back to nerding, when you're looking at statistics, it is absolutely unarguable that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback who has ever played the game of football. The next greatest, as much as I might have loved statistically, as much as I might have really loved, the Montana years in San Francisco, and even as a Packer, I enjoyed watching Joe play. I got to see Joe play when the Packers were still playing a couple of their home games in Milwaukee County Stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to see him play. Arguably, you have to go all the way back to really Johnny Unitas, Joe Namath, those kinds of serious marquee impact players.
Right.
But those guys, for as much ego as they might have had, it wasn't the biggest thing in the room.
Right.
Something shifted around about the Favre years. I mean, and for us Packer fans, all we got to do is think back to the guy before Favre, who was Don Makowski.
Poor guy.
And
You're
he's
right.
that's sweet guy.
That really, you make a very good point. There was a pivot point somewhere along the way where the NFL became all about, okay, who's your superstar quarterback?
Yeah, who is your franchise guy?
And yeah,
I mean, they came up with the franchise title for that very thing.
Yeah, and the thing, you can go down the list. In Dallas, it was Tony Romo. For whatever reason, the guy couldn't hit anything. But
Don Meredith, man.
Right.
But I was also going back in time, and Roger
actually,
Staubach, those guys.
Before Tony Romo, I will say Dallas did have a real quarterback who was really good and really fun to watch, and generally a good guy, not this biggest ego in the room kind of quarterback. And that was Troy Aikman.
Oh, exactly. No, Aikman, I still. He's one of my favorite color. He's still one of my favorite color guys because he's not Mr. Personality. And I think he's aware that he's not Mr. Personality. And so he just really, every once in a while, he'll throw a joke out there and it's good and it's fine. But when we come back from the break here, I think we can dovetail this all together into a slightly more substantial talk about nerddom, because God knows there are football nerds. Right, a little bit. But tell you what, we will do that break right now and come back on the other side and we'll talk some more bullshit, because that's exactly what's on the plate today, minus my ribeye. But we'll be right back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. Bye. And we're back. Boy, this show's got flow today. Man, and by flow,
we are on a roll.
We are flowing.
I am looking forward, speaking of rolls, and to touch back briefly on my discussion of ketogenic diets. My partner Heather and I are doing a new experiment tonight. We are making keto biscuits out of, ready for it?
Cauliflower?
Close. No. Cauliflower can fuck right off. I am so sick of cauliflower. Oh my God. Bamboo fiber.
Of course.
Bamboo fiber. Wow.
Exactly.
Very close to cardboard. Good luck.
That's what I was saying. No, apparently it is friggin' miraculous.
Oh, okay.
Come our Thanksgiving episode in a month from now, we will be reporting on that, because Chris, you might wind up eating these things.
I was going to say this.
He's going to practice now, Chris.
Hit him in the head with one.
Imagine a Southern drop biscuit with less than 0.7 grams of carbs per biscuit.
Wow.
Chewy.
But lots of bacon grease, right?
That's amazing.
Well, if you're doing it right.
Bacon,
Well,
grease, and
by the
sugar.
way, that's the other thing that you put on your steak is coat your steak in bacon grease before you put it on the hot pan.
So B&G is back on the menu.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And I found one bean that I can still eat. I am not going to be able to make. I'm not going to be able to make red beans anymore. I have to make black soybeans. And yeah, seriously, beans have a very, very high sugar content.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's why they're good for. That's why
they're delicious.
Civilization's alive. Yeah.
Right. Let's get back briefly to this idea of nerddom and geekdom. I think we all kind of have our own flavors of that. We're all music nerds to one degree or another.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So,
where's my other toys? There we go.
No, you're not at all, Ty.
No.
So, what I think is interesting about this, though, is that nerddom, to me, seems to kind of be the other side of the coin to what we were talking about earlier in the show, which is this idea of these, I don't even want to say misinformed. I'm going to say malinformed. These malinformed people who want to be looked at as being some flavor of intellectual, but it's like they're lazy. And the thing about nerddom and geekdom is that it is an inherently unlazy thing to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's true.
We dig. That rabbit hole is not deep enough. We're making it deeper.
And it brushes up against obsessive behavior. I mean,
it can.
Do you know the other thing it has, though, and this is just, you triggered my ancient philosopher mode here, which is that it has, yeah, I'm sorry, you always have to apologize for this. Anyway.
No, you don't. That's one of the things that we sell here, man. So hit me with it.
It's this, the reason, but Chris got it. But the obsessiveness is like not OCD. It's like the sense of wonder overwhelming, right?
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
And just so here's the geeky part. And this is like my favorite thing. I've been meditating on this now for like 20 years. My favorite line in Aristotle, it's in the Metaphysics, and he points out that wonder is what gives us access to the architecture of the universe.
Yes.
Isn't that pretty?
And Sagan famously kind of ran with that.
Yeah, of course.
And you could tell that he was directly informed.
All those guys have that,
view.
and there's like this sense of like childhood, right?
I mean, one of the earliest lines in episode 1 of Cosmos is he's talking about the danger of nuclear winter, and he says, "But we're young and we're inquisitive."
Yep.
And we have great potential.
I miss his optimism so much.
I do too.
It feels like, I was just going to say it feels deflated. My thing about that in the same time, and this shows you just how weird a kid I was. Thank you, Mom. I love you for this.
Yeah, you were pretty weird.
My mom turned me on to Richard Feynman. My mom turned me on to Richard Feynman.
How does that even? Yeah, because he's like he's the paradigm gold standard for this.
He's the OG science educator.
Bongo player, TUVA throat singer.
Exactly. If it's and that whole thing.
It's interesting that some people find science so easy, and others find it kind of dull and difficult. Especially kids, some of them are just eat it up. And I don't know why it is. It's the same perhaps for all subjects. For instance, lots of people love music, and I never could carry a tune. And I lose a great deal of pleasure out of that. And I think people lose a lot of pleasure who find science dull. In the case of science, I think that one of the things that make it very difficult is it takes a lot of imagination. It's very hard to imagine all the crazy things that things really are like.
And not only that, thank you for bringing up TUVA.
That's a rabbit hole.
That's the book my mom gave me.
Oh, dear.
Which, in the whole story of him and his crew going, we need to do something. And, this was at the time, too, when Feynman knew that he had cancer. And no, and that whole story came from a stamp Did you
Right.
realize that came
Right.
from a stamp because somebody in that group, and it might have been Feynman, I'm not actually remembering it, but had a canceled stamp from TUVA.
It's
And
like,
they
where the
all
hell
went,
is that?
where the fuck is TUVA?
Yeah.
And the immediate answer was, let's go find it.
How do
Right.
we? They had to create a conference to go to TUVA so they could justify it.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. They had to get invited to TUVA because it was
brilliant.
controlled by the
China?
Soviets at the time.
Soviets, yeah.
And I believe. And that idea, and you're right, Mark, it does kind of at times touch upon the obsessive, which I think is interesting because if you think about all your seriously nerdy friends, most of us to one degree or another are probably somewhere in that neurospicy camp.
Well, and I'm gonna slather a little bit more nerdiness on Richard Feynman because
Ew,
as you were
that
talking,
was-
I just
the
had the
bacon
most
grease.
So
wonderful.
has been nothing but double entendres all the way down the
I
line.
think we're
Let's not stop now.
we're into
Yeah,
triple
poor
entendres
Ty is
now.
over here just
Yeah.
just going, oh my god, what are these guys?
Slather on,
today?"
Chris. Slather
Yeah,
on.
slather on.
But yeah, while you were talking, I had the most wonderful, delicious, utterly useless insight. Richard Feynman is the real world Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo, the president's calling about is everything okay with the alien space cloud from Planet 10, or should we just go ahead and destroy Russia?
Tell him yes on 1 and no on 2.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai.
Which was yes, destroy Russia or number 2?
Oh,
I would stretch for that. Yeah.
okay.
You're right.
He is as close to Buckaroo Banzai as we could possibly get. And I mean, right there. I mean, talk
Now,
about
he
nerd.
wasn't a race car driver,
Who even
but
thinks
you
about
know.
Buckaroo Banzai nowadays?
I was just going to say,
Funny.
there's a link in the description for all our younger followers who have
Why
no
did they
fucking
never
idea.
make a follow-up movie?
You
By the way,
must
why
go
was there no
see that
sequel?
film if you have not.
It was so
somebody
ahead of
crying
its
out there?
time. Right. It's somebody crying out there. Nice. I caught that just out of this ear.
Excuse me, is someone out there not having a good time? Somebody crying out there?
This idea of nerddom, you know, a lot of it did spring up once us nerds started to understand that our time was coming. You know, when we were, and really our, you know, your Mark, the boomer generation kind of started to have a little bit of this. It really started happening more with us in the Gen X era.
A lot more. And it's like, I can remember when being a nerd or a geek was like a bad thing. And those of us who were like, I was like a theater music geek, right, in high school.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But it was like, you know, we were not the jocks, but I did go to a school where it was like harder to get onto the choir than it was to get on the football team.
Yeah.
So there was that. But it's like,
movie-
I think it was the 80s is what I'm really thinking as it started to come on.
Hey,
And
Revenge of the
making-
Nerds.
And
Do
in
you
fact,
think the Revenge of the Nerds going into the mainstream and just being part of our consciousness helped us?
I think that
Yes.
was the first hole in the dam.
Ooh,
yeah,
Animal
that
House?
was a real touchstone moment, and you're onto something good here, Ty, because I feel like I felt the turn. It was Revenge of the Nerds, and then
Real
you know,
genius.
I was a real genius.
Right.
I was a real, you know, you guys are in the movie space. I was very much a television kid. And so there was Head of the Class,
Right.
which, you know, Howard Hessman teaching a class full of nerds, which is normal. That wasn't elevating. It was normalization.
It was normalizing it. I would
But
agree
then-
with you there.
But then what I feel was the real touchstone turning point where I felt a really palpable cultural shift. I mean, like cataclysmic cultural shift was Friends. Because
Wow, I
the
would not have gone there.
I would've gone
because
to
the
Freaks and
central
Geeks,
character
right?
was Ross Geller.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Here,
Huh.
I will grant you that there was some representation there. I am more along with Ty. My things, and really where I felt the shift, oddly enough, was Doogie Howser, MD.
yeah, maybe.
Where
Yeah.
it was allowing somebody who was obviously neurodivergent, who was obviously not just a kid, and showing him having just normal kid issues to deal with, but at the same time having advanced way faster than anybody else. And then, like you were saying, Ty, Freaks and Geeks.
Oh
Even
God, what a brilliant show!
Oh,
and
yeah.
look at how many careers that show launched.
Right? You got Seth. You've got everybody,
all of them,
everybody on that cast.
Yep.
And why that show only? Because I think there's only like 32 episodes.
That was one of those brilliant kickoff things, like Dazed and Confused, which also launched some major careers.
And one of the things that I think
High Times at Ridgemont.
Right, exactly.
Ridgemont, yeah.
One of the things, because now we're all saying, well, why didn't these things last? I think, hi, Boomer.
Oh, it's Trixie here.
Oh, hey, Trixie. Sorry. The other dog. Boomer just can't be bothered with our bullshit anymore. I think, one of the things we're all saying is, why didn't Freaks and Geeks last? Why didn't Parker Lewis Can't Lose last?
Oh my God, that's a callback.
And
holy shit.
I think that's because they were the first, they were the first up against the wall when the revolution came. And we were more inclined to look at people like Michael J. Fox on television and see
Family
how
Ties, man. Yeah, you
see
got
how
the guy, right?
see how it's integrating into what culture wanted everybody to see it as, which is your intellect gets you money, Wall Street, all this stuff, all these other, for lack of a better way of saying it, all these other niche things came and went. But what's interesting to me is that their impact lasted. And
I was just gonna say. So, like, the things that didn't last, and we can't, there's Freaks and Geeks, Serenity,
right? Firefly, yeah.
Those kinds of things. Those are the things that are the equivalent to a Velvet Underground album.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
they only had one album, but everybody that
you aim to misbehave.
To
it, there you go.
Well, and I would submit to you
that
all of these things that we're talking about that didn't last, that we wish had lasted, maybe even just a little bit longer, that we could have squeezed because we were so connected with it, right? We were
at least a segment of us were. Yeah.
But I would submit to you that maybe those things didn't need to last. Maybe they were
That's where I was going.
Because they had made their mark. They had done what they needed to do.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of, okay, move on.
Yeah. And Chris, you have a very good point, because if, let's say that the Velvet Underground had more than one hit album, right? It would have taken away from that
lightning strike
from the pressure
and the meteoric just impact that it had.
Right, I agree.
And so now, the follow up, right, is that once these things happen, they are appropriated by the mechanisms of the economy and diluted and turned from real food into fast food.
Yeah,
I was thinking about
for the
I
masses.
was going back
exactly.
to like the pre-internet days. This seems like it might have been a different civilization. I guess it was.
Might have been a different universe.
You got lost in the library you find a book in the library and that you weren't looking for, and then you end up sitting on the floor in the library.
Yeah,
looking at, or those 1930s vintage National Geographics.
Oh yeah, baby.
Even if you're looking through like the old World Book or the Encyclopedia Britannica or something, and you just end up wandering around in there. It's like what you could do today with Wikipedia, right? But instead, what people do is they doom scroll instead, right?
Yeah,
because it's all easy to digest and there's no chewing
the
involved.
Doom scrolling
there's no work.
Socially engineered.
Yes.
Right? These guys have gotten really savvy.
The algorithm,
social engineering, what the brain wants, that dopamine hit, and how to make you come back for another.
It's the same as engineering the taste of McDonald's French fries.
Exactly right. It's a non-food that is chemically designed to stimulate every single thing that you've got in your system that's going to make you buy more.
Oh, did you read my thing about Tang and orange juice and porn?
Yep, exactly the same. Yeah, link in the description.
Put my Substack in there.
I would absolutely. By the way, yes, everybody go subscribe to the Motley Cow. My God, if you want a weekly dose of painful reality that will make you feel better about the rest of your existence, the Motley Cow is the place to be.
There's actually new material for paid for the paid. Thank you. And Chris is one of our paid. They're actually paid subscribers now, which is freaking me out a little bit. And I crossed a threshold, so I'm adding a weekly moo now.
Yeah, which
for the paid subscribers.
And yeah, this whole thing actually does kind of neatly go back to talking about those metrics that I was talking about on YouTube, and this idea of, am I an influencer, or I don't call myself an influencer, I call myself an educator. The thing to me that is different than it was when we were kids sitting in the stacks, right? Looking through old books, is what's changed now. And of course, both of our generations, they first started accusing us of this, and now it's really happened. And that is, our attention spans have dwindled to the point where the most popular thing on the largest social media platform on earth, which is YouTube, the most popular trend right now is content under 60 seconds.
And that's to compete with TikTok.
Exactly, which pioneered it. And I can tell you right now, and by the way, dear viewers and listeners, you will be getting more content from us, because artificial intelligence has made it to the point where I don't have to make my own shorts anymore. I simply point artificial intelligence to the short. It reads all the dialogue. It cuts out the best visual parts. It puts in subtitles for free. So I'm very aware. I did 4 shorts out of some of my most recent videos.
What were you using, Andy?
I was using. I don't want to advertise the platform.
Never mind.
It's not a bad thing. It's just I don't get any kickback from it. So fuck them. Fuck you, robot. Yet. But I did a number of shorts today and just slapped them up there. And one of my shorts already, back when I checked about an hour and a half ago, in 10 minutes got 250 plus views. Jesus. That never happens for me, ever, because I'm so niched down. There are not 250 people on this earth who are interested in me lucking out and scoring a really expensive microphone. And yet, and so it's the dynamic tension between wanting to be informed, but only wanting to be informed in 60-second bites.
I'm interested in how the industry, because it always comes down to the industry, right?
Right.
It always comes down to the firm, right? I'm wondering how they're getting a cut out of this. 60 seconds isn't a lot, man.
No, but 60 seconds times 5 million views. Right. Some of these views are so high. I mean, they just changed the monetization level on YouTube. Back when I first started, you needed to have 1,000 followers and 4,000 watch hours in order to become monetized. And monetization is just a fancy way of saying, if you're not a YouTube premium subscriber, you wind up seeing a little ad at the beginning or in the middle of a video.
Ads.
Okay. Now they've changed it to where you need 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours. Now, on my Booth Camp channel, which is linked somewhere, I passed 500 subscribers about a month and some ago. I still don't have the views to get monetized, but I put out a video, and I'll link it up here. I've made the conscious decision to not get monetized on YouTube because, I mean, part of it's ethical. The other part of it, though, is that there come content creation limitations, what you can say and what you can't say.
Right.
And then YouTube, the platform, dangling over your head demonetization because of certain things that you do.
Oh, yeah.
I'm Gen X, baby. I don't want people telling me what to do.
Well, yeah, I think what you're seeing is the hook inside of the worm. And it's kind of like, yeah, you don't want to be caught. Because once you cross that Rubicon into monetization, you have basically allowed yourself to be taken hostage.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about it is, when I was telling you guys what the number levels were, if you are just doing shorts, and you'd think nobody would be able to make a career out of doing shorts, right? One of the number one people on YouTube does exclusively shorts and brings in about $80,000 to $100,000 a month in ad revenue. And nobody wants to slow down. And that's one of the reasons why, as we go out here, I encourage all our viewers and listeners, look, there's, a handful of you that follow us here on YouTube and have been supporting us. And thank you to everybody who's done so. Do that for other content creators. Do that for people. I mean, look, Mark Rober doesn't need my help, okay? Adam Savage and Tested don't need my help. What needs help is making sure that YouTube, the largest social media platform on earth, where at any given moment, 1/4 of the population of the globe is watching YouTube.
Wow.
Really, seriously, 2+ billion people at any given moment are watching YouTube. Make sure you support those content creators who do longer form stuff. People like Eric over at Hand Tool Rescue, who's one of my favorite channels, watching him break down an old washing machine and bringing it back to life. Or, people who are literally putting something out there that Rick Beato. Thank you.
Well,
You're absolutely right.
Wow,
that's rich and meaningful to you as a viewer. And here's the thing that I want to add to what you're saying, Andy, is by supporting. I mean, it's not just support them to feel good. It's not just support them to keep them producing stuff. This
Help
is
them fight
as a viewer, and I am talking straight to you, the audience, right now. This moment, God, I feel like I'm on PBS.
It's starting to sound that way too.
This is your agency. This is your opportunity to control, or to at least contribute a little sliver of
influence in some way.
What information finds its way into the cultural bloodstream?
I could not agree. I could not agree more.
Misinformation and disinformation. This is how you do it.
Yeah, we've got to. There you go. Exactly. Call now. I do that for a living. We are at this weird inflection point where, the old terrestrial model of broadcasting is dead. The networks are literally dying. But we've got something that stepped in to fill that vacuum. And in my mind, it's actually better. This is like, and I hate to say it, but this is like if Wayne's World got to grow up and turn into something for real. That's your Rick Beato. Rick Beato, you want to talk about tying this all back into nerddom. Where do you go as a nerd when you are looking for instant gratification in order to learn something? You don't even go to Wikipedia. You don't search on Google. You go to YouTube. I've gone to YouTube in order to discover how to break into my own truck because I locked the keys in the car 3 times.
I've gone to YouTube to do brain surgery on my dryer.
Right? Exactly. Support those people. Support that type of information. That's how you combat the misinformation, is by supporting these people who are actually taking the time, putting in the effort in order to give you something that's got meat on the bone, not just this fluff.
Yes, and absolutely. And Andy, on that note, I am going to throw out one more great movie nerd callback and ask you to take us out, if you can. I mean, check the licensing, check the rules. If you can take us out on Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen, because what we're living, this is the real world vision of Pump Up the Volume. We are living it, and this is it.
Chris, I gotta say, it's been 2+ years and 6+ seasons, but you've nailed this episode ending perfectly. And with that, we are the Hats. This is Keep Your Hat On. I'm Andrew. That's Chris. That's Dr. Mark. That's Ty. Do us a favor, like, click, subscribe, please. We are not even asking for your financial support right now, but I'm working on tote bags. Speaking of PBS.
If you did want to give us financial support.
If you did want to give us some financial support, our Patreon link is down in the show notes. We are the hats, as we said, and as always is the case when we come to a ending, either a crash or a nice soft landing like Chris gave to us this time. Keep your hat on, because as this episode above pretty much all else has proven, we may end up miles from here. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. See you next time. Get your new booster shots, please. And we'll talk to you again soon. Yeah, talk hard. Bye-bye.
Well, there's another chunk of time you can't get back. From Portland, Oregon and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this has been Keep Your Hat On, a big little show about a whole lot of nothing in particular. Keep Your Hat On is a Now Band Broadcast Network production in association with Andrew Scott Media. Andrew Scott, executive producer. Robert Anthony and Christopher Vacano, associate producers. Our theme music was written and produced by Andrew Scott, along with help from Ron Kajawa. Website design and maintenance by Vacano Creative, Christopher Vacano Webmaster. Available on the web at vacanocreative.com. Audio and video production by Andrew Scott Media. Available online at andrewscottmedia.com. Hey, if you got questions, comments, or topics for the show, why don't you email the boys at talkback@kyhopodcast.com. And don't forget to like, click, and subscribe. On behalf of the boys, I'm the announcer, apparently, Richard Cranium. Thanks for listening, I guess. NBBN. The Narrow Band Broadcast Network. The focus is on you.